Right, so these three things in the ark, you've got the Ten Commandments, the golden pot with manna, and Aaron's staff. Now, obviously, the Ten Commandments is the Ten Commandments, that's what it represents. It's the Holy Covenant. The Holy Covenant is what makes Israel Israel. If someone claiming to be a child of the promise is not keeping that Holy Covenant, then they're a child of the devil. Okay? Now, the golden pot with manna, what you've said is like partially true, but really to like hit the bullseye, what the golden pot of manna represents is the knowledge of God. It's prophecy, having this understanding of prophecy that God is going to give to you when you obey him and receive his spirit of truth. Now, the reason you know that manna is prophecy is because Yeshua calls himself the bread from heaven. And it's through Yeshua's sacrifice that we can receive the spirit of truth. And then when we have the spirit of truth, that's how God is going to reveal his word unto us. And he's going to reveal prophecy unto us, the meat in due season. Okay, so this manna was obviously this like heavenly type bread. And also, even when you look into the ingredients of manna, it was this sort of bitter sweet bread, made with honey and coriander seed. Okay, so in Ezekiel 2 or 3, I think it's 3, Ezekiel 3, and in Revelation, it describes the little roll, which is prophecy, as being sweet in the mouth and bitter in the belly. And that's because when God first reveals his word to you and you can actually understand what the Bible's saying, it's amazing. It's sweet in your mouth. You can't believe it. But then it starts to digest and you realize, like the whole world is deceived apart from the very elect, and God's woken you up to warn them, and you know that you're going to experience things like the Matthew 10 sword. It's persecution for righteousness' sake, and then it becomes bitter in your belly. And then Aaron's staff, what that represents is like obviously this was like the Levitical priesthood. It was this staff of the priests. Okay, but obviously now we're no longer under the Levitical priesthood, but under the order of Melchizedek. But we are still called to be priests of that order, and that has everything to do with fulfilling the royal law. Okay, the priests of the order of Melchizedek, they are going to understand the refreshing of the covenant, they're going to fulfill the royal law, they're going to, hold the key of David. And so Aaron's staff really, it represents like this staff of authority that these servants are going to hold, and they're going to be fulfilling the royal law. Now, obviously, this is like entirely spiritual. It's idiomatic, like I don't actually have a staff, that I walk around with and smack on the ground, like it's just idiomatic, but that's what it represents. So ultimately, when you summarize it, if the Ark of the Covenant is represented by our hearts, then what it represents is that within our hearts we are supposed to have the 10 Commandments, and because we keep those 10 Commandments, we're going to receive the knowledge of God. So we're going to have this golden pot with manna, and when we understand the knowledge of God, we are called to fulfill the royal law and rebuke the sin out of the church and become priests. And so we have this staff of authority. So they are the three things that are supposed to be in our hearts. 10 Commandments, then you receive the meat and due season, then you proclaim it with authority to the four corners of the world.